All right, good evening and welcome everyone. My name is Victoria Prasek. I'm the Vice President of the League of Women Voters New Brighton area, and on behalf of our league, I'd like to thank you for joining us for the Mounds Public Schools ISD 621 Public Candidate Forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. That means we neither support nor oppose any political party or candidate. Our mission is to encourage informed and active participation in government and to increase the understanding of major public policy issues. Tonight's forum is designed to give you, the voters, an opportunity to hear directly from the candidates, to learn about their priorities, and to help you make informed choices this election season. It's now my pleasure to introduce tonight's moderator, Florence Sprague, who's a member of the Roseville Area League, who will guide us through the forum.
Thank you, Victoria. Good evening, everyone, again, and welcome to this forum for the candidates for Independent School District 621 Board. As she said, my name is Florence Sprague, and I will be the moderator tonight. I'm a league-trained moderator and a member of the Roseville Area League and a resident of Maplewood and 622. So love them or hate them, I do not get to vote on these candidates. The knowledge, values, and commitment of our elected officials greatly affect the success of our communities. Thus, it's essential for the public to better understand those views, opinions, and commitments of people running for public office so that they can make an informed decision. We greatly appreciate the candidates taking the time to be here tonight and the audience, whether viewing live or later rebroadcast, for their time and attention. All opinions presented tonight are those of the candidates, not those of the League of Women Voters. The candidates participating in tonight's forum have all agreed to forum rules, which were included in their invitation to participate, and I know they will give us a respectful and informative evening. The format for tonight's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes for opening remarks. There will then be a question and answer session, and all candidates will respond to the same questions. No personal or attacking questions will be used, and likewise, responses should be confined to the positions and opinions of the speaker. We will be using questions written by the audience tonight if we have time, as well as the questions submitted in advance to local emails. There are league members who have index cards and pens if anyone in the audience would like to write a question. And we'll see if we can get those in too. After the question and answer period, the candidates will each be given, going back to the question and answer, the candidates will be given 1 minute to respond to each question. No rebuttals. There are timers seated in the front of the room. They have a 15-second warning and a stop sign. After the question and answer section, we will have 2 minutes apiece for closing remarks. This forum is being recorded by NineNorth for later viewing by the public. You can check their website for the viewing schedule. Now we all need to take 1 moment for a last chance to make sure that the ringers are off on our cell phones, right? Nobody, thank you. Okay. There are 4 candidates vying for 3 positions on the school board. Closer? Okay. All candidates who filed for this office were invited to the forum, and 3 of them are with us this evening. Alphabetically, the candidates would be Shauna Bock, and then, the next one alphabetically is Shea Bruce, who is not with us, and then Tascha Just and Mark Sacay. Okay, with that, let's get to our opening statements. Candidates drew numbers for the order. Timers, you ready? Okay. We'll begin with Shauna Bock.
All right, thank you. Good evening. My name is Shauna Bock, and I have the privilege of serving on the Mounds View School Board currently, and I have for nearly 8 years. I've called the city of Mounds View my home for almost 20 years with my husband, Nate, and we have 3 children who all attend Mounds View Public Schools. Layla is a senior at Irondale, Will is a freshman at Irondale, and Samantha is a 7th grader at Edgewood Middle School. My kids went through the Pike Lake, Sunnyside, Edgewood, Irondale, west side of the district. I'm currently the only board member with a background as an educator. I have a bachelor's degree in social studies education and a master's degree in special education. I have multiple teaching licenses and administrative licenses. I've worked in education since 2003. I've worked in St. Paul Public Schools, South St. Paul Public Schools, and in Mounds View Public Schools. I have had just about every job you could have in a school. I've been a paraprofessional, a substitute teacher, a special education classroom teacher, a instructional coach. I've worked as a principal and a special ed director for the district. Currently, I work in adult basic education, so I am working with incarcerated adults, helping them get their GED while they are incarcerated. So my background, my experience gives me a pretty unique perspective on how district-level decisions impact classrooms, how they impact teachers, and most importantly, how our decisions impact our students. As the parent of 3 students in the district, I've been really involved in PTA, music groups, booster clubs. I'm looking for re-election so that I can continue to do the work that we've been doing around school safety, academic excellence, and equity.
Thank you. The next opening statement will be from Mark Sacay.
All right. Good evening, everybody. And I want to thank the League of Women Voters and everybody here that's supporting this process. 2 decades ago, my wife and I moved from Cincinnati. I'm originally from Cincinnati. I was in the Army National Guard, spent most of my life there. But 20 years ago, we decided to move to Minnesota with our 3 kids, 1, 3, and 5. All 3 of our kids went through the Mounds View School District, first at Turtle Lake, then Chippewa, then Mounds View. 2 of my kids went through the concurrent enrollment. One of them got her associate's degree. The other one had college credits. And then finally, my youngest son did get a lot of support from Mounds View High School. So things went really well for my kids. They graduated from college and went off and started their professional careers. I spent 33 years in the insurance industry, and back in June, I actually left my corporate day job to give back to my community, and what better way to do that than to run for the school board. I'm also involved in a number of volunteer programs through my church and through Mission Continues, which is a veteran program for volunteerism. So after 33 years, I decided to really give back to the community, which I have done. My platform, I have 3 key areas which I'd love to look at as a board member. The first one is financial transparency. I want to ensure that the taxpayer dollars are going to be spent in a good manner, and so I think that is the very first priority for me. The second is continuing the academic excellence that we see in the Mounds View School District. I think that is very important to have. And then finally, mental health. That is critically important, especially in today's day and age. Finally, I've got a 4th item, which is communication to kind of wrap all those things together. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last opening statement will be from Tascha Just.
Hello, Osio, Bonjour. My name is Tascha Just. Before I was a school psychologist, before I was a parent in the district, before I decided to run for school board, I was just a little girl listening to my grandmother's stories. She was a teacher in a 1-room schoolhouse in northern Minnesota, and she used to tell me how she would have to go early to get firewood and kindling so that she would be able to have the school warm enough for the kids to learn. That image has always stayed with me, and thinking about a woman carrying both fire and responsibility, doing what she needed in order to have the kids in her care feel safe and able to learn. That's part of why I'm here. I'm a longtime school psychologist, a union leader, and a proud mom in the Mounds View School District. I'm running for school board because I believe every child deserves a safe and supportive and inspiring education. My priorities are clear: student safety, academic excellence, and community trust. With student safety, I'm thinking about secure entrances as well as mental health as well as providing or taking care of the issues that are, let me start again, protecting us from the 60,000 cyber attacks that are coming in monthly. So our thinking about safety is multifaceted. Academic excellence, I'm looking at the reading school, reading, math, and science scores, and expanding on special education. Oh, stop.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move to the question and answer section. The order for who goes first and so on will be varied so that no one always goes first or last or is always following the same person. I will try to announce clearly who is up next. And if in my effort to mix things up I miss somebody sometime, don't feel bad about saying, wait a minute, don't go on to the next question yet, I missed that one. So I don't mind that. Though there's only 3 of you and not 10, so this probably won't be an issue. Okay. So, moving right into the questions, the first one ties right to your opening statements, and I'll give you a choice. Answer either, what are the issues that led you to run for school board and why are they important? Or if you feel like you've already covered that in your opening, why do you feel that you are the best candidate? And we will begin with Shauna Bock.
All right. So I maybe will answer a combination of the two questions. So I do not have one particular issue or thing that I am trying to push my own agenda to be on the school board. So like I said, I've been on the school board for going on 8 years, finishing my 2nd term as a school board member. I think I am well qualified, one, because I've been doing it for 8 years, and because, like I said, I am the only educator on the school board, and that is not to diminish the gifts and talents that my school board colleagues bring to the table, because those are important as well. But I do believe that you should have somebody who has worked in a school, who knows how schools work, serving on the school board, because some of that, I know some of the ins and outs or some of the language or some of the impacts of how it plays out practically within our classrooms.
Thank you. Next response from Tascha Just.
I, similar to Shauna, don't have specific things that I am coming to change. I am hoping to maintain and build upon the legacy that Mounds View has right now. And as I said before, what I'm focused on is safety, academic excellence, and community trust. The reason I would say I'm the best candidate, I wouldn't say that I'm the best. I'm one of a really good team, and that's part of what the school board is about. And I know all the school board members, and I know Mark, and it would be a good team. So as one of a team, I bring 20 years of school psychology background. I have been a union leader, and my priority is with neurodivergent and learners who don't necessarily fit inside the box.
Thank you. And the final response to this question, Mark Sacay.
That's a great question, and for me, I think the number one reason why is prior to going into working in the insurance industry, I was a volunteer in high school. I did a lot of volunteer work. I actually lettered in high school, and I didn't really tell anyone about that. I was a little embarrassed because everyone got it for sports or football. Fast forward 40 plus years later, and I'm proud of the fact that I did a lot of volunteer work. Since I left in June, I joined a number of different organizations around the city. Unidos, Minnesota is one of them, Indivisible Twin Cities, Isaiah, Welcome the Stranger through my church. And I think I really have a passion to give back to the community. What better way to do that than the school board? Because kids are where everything starts. I care about all the kids in this district, and give me a chance, vote for me, and I will do my best to protect all of them.
Thank you. The next responses will begin with Mark. And this is also a topic that some of you have mentioned, but this is a chance to go into a little more specificity, and that's school safety. Each time a tragic shooting at a school occurs in our country, there are calls for increased safety measures in our schools. What actions would you support be taken by the school board to increase safety in our schools?
I believe with the new school levy, there are a number of things that we can do to ensure that something like that doesn't happen again. I think mental health is a really good part of that, because we need to ensure that someone doesn't do that from our school district. So we need to look out for each and every child and ensure that they're not lost in the shuffle of 11,000 kids. With respect to safety around the schools, the new doors, security doors, cameras, using AI to our advantage to ensure that we're checking every box and protecting our kids the best we can. And I think with the new levy, we'll have those funds to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next response from Tascha Just.
I would build upon everything that you've already heard, as well as looking at and collaborating with law enforcement. I have a criminal justice degree as well as school psychology and a robust relationship with various departments. And hearing from various stakeholders is really key in trying to make sure that our students stay safe. And also just the sense of belonging. When students and staff feel like their district is for them, that's when incidences go down. So maintaining and building upon that sense of being welcome in our schools and feeling like we belong to our community.
Thank you. And the final response in this question, Shauna Bock.
I will agree with everything that Mark and Tascha have said. I am a very big supporter of the capital projects levy that the district is proposing on the ballot this fall. I do want to make sure that I say most people, 9 out of 10 residents, believe our schools are safe. I believe our schools are safe. I send 3 kids there every day. However, could things be safer? Yes, things could always be safer. So I support using this money for safer school entrances, for better security cameras, for more secure doors, to protect our cybersecurity. And very much like what Tascha said, I think it also goes hand in hand with students feeling connected to their schools. In the aftermath of these shootings, we often hear that the person was bullied or something was going on at school. So if we can ensure that our students are feeling connected, we have less of a chance of something happening here.
Thank you. Responses for the next question are going to start with Shauna. In what ways do you anticipate that the massive cuts at the United States Department of Education will affect ISD 621? And how can these impacts be best addressed?
That's a great question. And it's hard to answer because the cuts seem to be very unpredictable, and you just don't know what's going to get cut on what day that it's going to get cut. So it's hard to be too proactive in that regard because we don't know. One thing we are proud of in Mounds View Public Schools is having a reserve. So if we didn't get our money from the federal government, from the state government for whatever reason, we can continue to operate for a short amount of time with the money that we have in the bank, which I think is good for people to know. When people get start to talk about school funding, I encourage people to go talk to their local state representatives to talk about how schools could be funded better or differently so that we don't have to be constantly talking about cuts or asking our neighbors for money.
Thank you. Next response from Mark Sacay.
Yeah, I think it's extremely unfortunate that our Department of Education is potentially cutting funding for public schools. I think as a board member, the first thing I would do is bring up a backup plan. We need to come up with ideas to bridge that gap between the state and the federal government, because based on who's heading the Department of Education, I think that's probably going to happen. So I do think that we need to come up with ideas, think outside of the box, and find funding that may go missing from the federal government. I think that part of coming up with ideas is engaging the community, engaging teachers and parents to come up with the ideas to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, responses for the next one will begin with Shauna.
Tascha didn't get a chance to answer
Oh.
that question.
So three of you and I. Thank you. Yes, Tascha. I get ahead of myself checking things off.
We, as a district right now, are spending 75 cents to of each dollar for instruction and student support. I want to make sure that we maintain that. And as has been said before, we're not sure what the future holds. What I can tell you is that we are a group of people who are resilient and are creative and are able to build within our community what we need to take care of ourselves. So I would say, again, with communication, our district has been really moving out into various realms in how to get communication from the community members. We'll continue to do that and figure out the best plan forward.
Thank you. Okay, now on to the next question. Looking at standardized test scores, I was originally thinking just a more general question on how are standardized test scores best used to serve the school district and individual students. A citizen has submitted a more specific question looking at the decline in reading and math scores in 10th and 11th graders in the last couple of years, and that stating that all candidates have espoused academic excellence as at least one of their campaign planks. What do they plan to do to turn around performance so that ISD 621 can again be a leader in the state on educational rankings? And we will begin with Shauna.
I would caution anyone who looks at standardized test scores as the measure of an excellent school district. So a standardized test score measures one moment in time. And maybe a student didn't get a good night's sleep the night before, or they didn't eat breakfast that morning. There could be a variety of reasons that the standardized test score doesn't measure the true ability of the student. My own daughter doesn't test well, and it's reflected in her test scores, but I do not believe that's a true representation of her academic abilities. I would also say that parents can opt their students out of taking those tests, and when we opt our students out of taking those tests, those count as a failure towards the district. So those numbers are not necessarily students getting worse in their scores. It could just be more parents opting their children out of taking the test.
Okay. Next response from Mark Sacay, and it looks the same this time as last time because we're missing a person. So my pattern doesn't work quite.
It's all good.
Okay.
So one of the things that I did in my corporate job in insurance is look at clients' data, look at the analytics. And so the very first thing to do if I ever get elected, or I would advise, is analyze the data. If it's something that can be measured, we can take action on it. So I want to analyze that data from different perspectives. And as Shauna mentioned, opting out, we can remove some of the outliers. Typically, if you remove the outliers, you get a better number and a more accurate reading on those test scores. We would probably consult as a group to determine if we need to disclose that information to the public. And I think that updated data, as soon as you take out those outliers, will definitely make a difference in the standardized test scores. If we do find that there are test scores that are low, I think that we will take that next step and address those concerns as a board member.
Thank you. And I won't forget Tascha this time. So, next response, Tascha, just.
I also caution using test scores as a measure. There are better ways to do that do not stress the teachers and the students out. There are a lot of families who have opted out. There are things that we can do to look at the data. I love data as a school psychologist, and there are ways to look at the data and implement interventions and change different things within the school. We also need to look at how testing is done, and there are so many kids that have various traumas that come into play with testing, and that we would be remiss to think that that's just a small percentage. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question responses will begin with Tascha. And our topic here is AI. Just as we could not stop the internet, we cannot stop AI. Artificial intelligence systems have their upside and their downside in education. What policy do you think the school district should adopt with regard to AI to prepare students for the future?
I have done a lot of research on AI and the safety and how that applies to students and schools. There are many different precautions that we would need to have. There are a lot of different stakeholders that would need to also contribute with how to use them. There are ways to use AI responsibly, and I think it would be good for our students to learn how to use the tools that are at their fingertips, to be able to use them responsibly and know how to further better the community. Goodogi is the word for Cherokee, everybody working better for themselves. And that's kind of how I see AI. We can use that to use as a team to better ourselves.
Thank you. Next response from Mark Sacay.
Well, my initial response is to get with Tascha because she's read up on the AI. I think AI, like anything, like the internet, like a car, it's a tool. It can be used for good. It could be used for bad. I think it's very important, and as a board member, I would suggest and consult with my board member teams that we would probably need to implement something in school where we can do training, education, how to utilize AI as a tool, because if you don't, AI is here to stay. I don't know that anyone can change that, and we need to live with it, work with it, and use it as a tool.
Thank you. Final response, Shauna Bock.
I think similar to what Mark and Tascha said, AI is not going away, but I think it's how we use it and what we use it for, and teaching students how to use it responsibly. AI shouldn't replace your own brain and your own thinking and your own work, but could we use it to enhance your ideas or enhance what you're doing? I do think it is here to stay, and so I think teaching kids how to responsibly use AI for jobs that they're going to have in the future would make sense. I also think there's some really great things, like some virtual reality things that we can do with AI, some other, coding or programming or other areas of AI that, we could teach students how to use, but I think it all comes back to making sure we're using it responsibly.
Thank you. Okay, and for the next one, responses will begin with Shauna. You're getting a lot of ones with this missing. All right, the topic, reading instruction. Literacy is key to education. Reading scores have been dropping. Do you support the implementation of the science of reading? If not, what approach do you favor toward improving reading levels?
So it was recently mandated by the state that we implement the READ Act, which is the science of reading. And it is, yes, the research behind it shows that it helps struggling readers. It also helps the kids that are in the middle, and it helps the kids who are already proficient at reading. So we have begun to implement that in our school district. It is an intense amount of training for our staff. So they are in the process of receiving that training and in the beginning process of implementing those strategies in the classroom. So I would expect it would take a little bit of time. We won't obviously see the results overnight, but once our teachers get the training and are able to implement that in the classroom, I do think we will see some pretty great results.
Thank you. Next response, Tascha.
The science of reading is a new-ish term, but the data and research behind it is decades old. And I love thinking and learning and talking about the pedagogy of learning. And what we can do is pretty exciting within schools. We are mandated, but at the same time, and we have different trainings. I think the thing that people don't necessarily think of is we have been doing these strategies for a really long time. We just have different words for them now. So we're sounding out words and thinking about phonemic awareness. And that isn't necessarily a new thing. We just haven't been using those words. Thank you.
Thank you. And now to Mark Sacay.
Yeah, thank you. So reading instruction and the science of reading, the READ Act, I'm not completely familiar with that, but I think that is very important to enable something because of our reading comprehension has gone down. And going back to sort of AI and using that tool, I would use AI to come up with some ideas on how we can make reading better. And obviously, if the READ Act is something that's going to be implemented, I would definitely want to learn more about that with my colleagues on the board. So thank you.
Thank you. Responses for the next question will begin with Mark. There's always been a problem of high school dropouts, but since the pandemic, there's been a marked increase in absenteeism. The habit of attending school appears to have diminished. What can be done to bring students back to school?
Okay, so the first thing I would do is look at what the dropout rates are and see if there's any trending that shows maybe it's a particular grade, particular person, and we can address that to figure out what we can do to get them back to school. Obviously, that is something that I would discuss with the other board members to come up with ideas. We would also, as I mentioned earlier, one of my key facets for running for board is communication with the community. I think having communication with the community, having communication with others to get to the root problem of getting people back to school and lowering the tardiness. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Tascha Just.
This is an area that I am an expert in, and I love talking about absenteeism and school refusal. There are so many different ways to bring students together and to get people back into the schools. It does take a multifaceted approach, and it takes an individual approach because there are a lot of different causes for it. But right now, there are different teams, and each district has people who are designated to look at that. That's one area that is really important because if you're not there, you're not learning. But we are able to make school in a way that is more welcoming for all and people are able to learn.
Thank you. And finally, Shauna Bock.
I'll say two things and then answer the question. The first thing I will say is the Mounds View Public Schools does have, our graduation rate is higher than the state average, which is, I think, something to celebrate. I think it's also important to note that when we look at the graduation rate, we're looking at a 4-year graduation rate, and not all students are on a 4-year path. So students who might have some special education needs or other needs. So if you're a student with an IEP, you can actually stay in school until your 22nd birthday, so then you don't count in those 4-year graduation rates. So that is just an important caveat to keep in mind. But I also think it's looking at, going to school from 7 to 3, Monday through Friday, isn't everybody's style. So how can we look at alternative ways, an online school, an alternative school, a modified schedule that captures what students need so that we're getting them what they need so they can graduate on their time frame.
Thank you. And Shauna, you're going to be first on the next one. Data requests. By law, community members are allowed to request school district data. Such requests can involve considerable costs to the district. What district budget trade-offs would you make to fund such requests? And would you support legislation to modify the authorizing statute?
Good question. So yeah, data requests, depending on the request, depending on the amount of time it takes someone to pull those requests. So in a previous school district where I worked, I was the person who would most often pull the data together for the data requests. And depending on what someone was asking, it took me a long time to pull those data requests together. I also think sometimes maybe what someone is seeking in a data request could be better answered with an in-person conversation. So being able to talk to someone and find out, why are you seeking this information? Maybe we could have a conversation and I could get you the answers that you're looking for. But when we have to pay for things that aren't in the budget, it has to come somewhere, and most often it comes from when we're spending 75 cents of every dollar in the classroom. That's where the money is going to come from in the classroom. So I would support any legislation that would help fill those data requests without taking money away from the classroom.
Thank you. Next response from Mark Sacay.
Yeah, the first thing I would like to do is look at where those data requests are coming from and how often. If there are too many, obviously we're going to have to cut the budget somewhere, and I would have that discussion with the other board members. You also mentioned legislation. If we can instill or change the legislation anyway so we can reduce the number of data requests, I would be in favor of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final response on this one from Tascha.
I would also support legislation that would help fill in that gap. I do think that the suggestions from Mark and Shauna are key and relevant. And also, with regard to AI coming, I think that also that process may be streamlined a bit in the future. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's see who's going to start the next one. Mark. What is your perception of the current working environment for teachers in our schools, and what changes would you like to see?
I met with the Teachers Association, MVEA, SIEU, and the St. Paul Regional Federation Labor Union, and I think before I met the union, I did have perceived notion and idea of who they were, but after talking to them, in preparation for that meeting, I spoke with my brother-in-law, who's a union rep and has been for several decades, and after getting to know what the unions can do for the teachers, I feel like the unions are great for the teachers. I feel like if there are issues with how they're being treated or work environments, that's something that they can certainly bring up to the board, and that's a discussion that we would have with the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next response from Tascha Just.
Working environment is so important, and I have been in the classroom and have spoken with people in a variety of roles within the school district, in the classroom, in the buildings. And one of the biggest concerns that comes up is safety. And people want to feel safe, and that includes their physical safety as well as the psychological support that they receive on the day-to-day basis. And also feeling respected within the classroom and within your building, and having autonomy to make decisions that you know are right for kids.
Thank you. And now to Shauna Bock.
I will say the school board and the superintendent has a very good relationship with our teachers union, and if and when issues do arise, the union president doesn't hesitate to come talk with the school board or talk with the superintendent to get those issues taken care of. I would say, like with any job, you'll find people who absolutely think it's the best place they've ever worked, and you'll find people who think it's the worst place they've ever worked. As someone who has worked at Mounds High School for multiple years, it was a great place to work. I really enjoyed my time at Mounds High School. I felt supported by the administration. I felt supported by the parents of the students I was working with. So in my own personal experience, it was really great. I know my kids' teachers seem to really enjoy the work they do every day. They feel respected by their colleagues and by their administration, and I think that's also reflected in the fact that we have a very low turnover rate for teachers in our district.
Thank you. Responses for the next one will begin with Tascha Just. Student mental health. Many see student mental health problems at a crisis level. Pandemic era isolation and the pervasiveness of social media have aggravated this problem for too many. How should the schools address this?
A sense of belonging and having a feeling of personal dignity is strategic and complicated, but I think that is where the schools need to focus, trying to build that community. And mental health is a big thing. The more that we try to outsource that, the less resilient we are. The more that we can institute strategies in our systems and in our institution that take care of people and that educate our peers so that we can all take care of each other. That is, I think, how the community and the district will handle and address the mental health issues.
Thank you. Next response, Mark Sacay.
Yeah, so mental health is one of my key areas. Mental health is really on the rise since COVID because of the isolation and because of just a number of percentage of kids have long-term mental health and loneliness issues. And I think being able to address each and every child within the district. I know we have mental health services for students. We need them for our staff and our faculty, and we need to ensure that we're reaching each and every child when it comes to mental health. One of the ideas I had is when we go and see a dean to see what kind of college we want to go to, would it be okay to have those deans have some training so they can touch base with each of their students, maybe on a quarterly basis, to say, hey, how are you doing? How are things going? They can build that relationship, and then if something happens, they can escalate that to a mental health professional. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final response, Shauna Bock.
I think one of the things we pride ourselves on in the Mounds Youth Schools is educating the whole child, which includes mental health. And I think that has to be done not just in isolation. It shouldn't just be something that happens when a student is at school, but how can we work with parents to make sure that they have the tools and the resources they need so that when students are at home, they're being well taken care of? How do we make sure that our greater community has those tools and resources so that when students are out in our community, we can support them? How do we make sure that we continue to have funding for the co-located services? So we have mental health providers in all our schools. How do we increase that service that we provide to students? Because we know when students feel safe and connected to school, they do better. So how can we, as a community, I don't think it's one person's responsibility, but as a community, how can we work together to support students' mental health needs?
Thank you. Responses for the next question will again begin with Tascha. Okay, phones. The presence and use of cell phones in class has long been an issue for debate. Now that some states are enacting statutes barring cell phones entirely, what policy would you promote regarding cell phones in our schools? Should this be a statewide mandate, or is it best left up to the individual school district?
I support what we have done in Mounds View, and that we looked at and listened to staff, to families, to administrators, looked at research-based data, and then made the policy. I think that's where I feel proud about Mounds View. I participated in the cell phone conversations and had robust discussions with community members and board members, and I feel very, very good about the end decision on where we are and what we ended up with as a district policy for cell phones.
Thank you. Next response, Shauna Bock.
I would agree that what Mounds View did as a district was the right approach for the Mounds View School District. So we were told that all schools in the state of Minnesota have to have a cell phone policy. And different school districts went about that different ways. And the way Mounds View went about it was to get feedback from teachers, feedback from parents, feedback from students. We spent a lot of time talking and listening, and then we came up with a cell phone policy that maybe not everyone agrees with, but I think it was a good compromise of everyone's voices. So it varies by level. I am not in favor of taking students' cell phones away or banning them from schools permanently, but I do think we have a good balance of, in elementary school, you don't need a cell phone. In middle school, you can have it during passing time. In high school, my high schoolers put their phone in a bin when they walk into class, and I think that policy works really well for us.
Thank you. Now to Mark Sacay.
Yes, so I think the argument for having phones in the classroom is really for safety, and I like the policy where they can be in the room, they have the caddy, which they can also take attendance. But I think the cell phone policy is very important. I also think it makes sense that we maybe do a survey, take a look at that on a quarterly basis to find out how it's going. Obviously, as the board member, we're not implementing that in the classroom. That's done by the faculty, teacher, principals, and superintendent. So it would be nice to get some sort of spotty check to see how things are going. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mark, you're still on the hook because you're the first one on the next question.
Okay.
How will you ensure equitable access to resources and a high-quality education for students all across our district, regardless of their zip code?
Yes, so the equity promise, I wasn't familiar with the equity promise when I first started running for the school board. My understanding of it now is student success is not based on the factors such as race, gender, socioeconomic status, or disability. And I like the equity promise. I think it makes sense that we aren't giving, sort of an unfair advantage to different students. So I think it's very important that we continue with that equity promise. And obviously, I would have those discussions with other board members to ensure that we are making sure that we're reaching out to each and every kid, regardless of race, religion, sex, or anything like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next response, Tascha Just.
I agree and fully support the equity promise and would support us continuing that. I think that it's important to look at students regardless of the path that they have been on and are moving towards. There are a lot of different journeys that our students are going to take, and it's important that their outcomes are not dependent on their zip code or any other demographic. As far as, yeah, that's what I would say. That's, yep, there you go.
Okay. And final response, Shauna Bock.
Like both Mark and Tascha said, I think the equity promise does a great job of laying out what we're going to do as a district, that regardless of what school you go to, what neighborhood you live in, you are going to get the same high-quality education, the same access as people who live on the other side of town. I think there's a misconception that if you live in North Oaks and your school is near North Oaks, that those schools on that side of the district get all the North Oaks money, and the schools over Sunnyside and Pinewood don't get North Oaks money. But that's not how taxes work. So the wealth gets spread out across the district, and really the schools with higher needs get the funding that they need in an equitable way.
Thank you. Now just a note to the cameraman, since we've hit the end of the line, we're going back to the beginning for the orders. So for 13, next one, this one will begin with Shauna. ICE. To date, ICE has been more active on college campuses, but the district needs to be planful. What policy do you support in regard to the entrance and activity of ICE agents, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents, in our schools?
If I'm not mistaken, I do believe that the district did put out a statement about students being safe when they're in our schools, and that we are not inviting these individuals into our schools, nor are we calling them and inviting them in or letting them in when they do show up. So I think that is important to know, that when students are with us, it is safe, and it is our responsibility to keep them safe when they are with us, without the worry that something is going to happen to them. That shouldn't even be a thought in their mind. They should be able to concentrate on school, knowing that the adults in the building are there to keep them safe.
Thank you. Next response, Tascha Just.
Students need to feel safe in order to learn, and teachers need to feel like their students are going to be safe throughout the day. And that is something that we, as a district and as a community, feel strongly about, and will continue to keep our community safe. So I encourage people to talk to district board members, to district staff for with regard to their individual stories and what is happening and what they're seeing. And if there are changes that we need to make, we can address that and just keep moving forward with the information that we have.
Thank you. Next response is Mark Sacay.
Yes, ICE is very unfortunate that's happening in our country. I mentioned earlier that I was a part of a different organization, one of them called Unidos Minnesota, the other is Indivisible Twin Cities, and I went in support of the Latino community with both of those entities in Minneapolis in front of their board, or in front of their city council, along with St. Paul and Columbia Heights. They enacted laws at the local level that our local authorities would not work with ICE to detain anyone that is undocumented. So that's one of the things as a board member, I'm meeting with the Mounds View mayor, and that's one of the things that I want to bring up is, can you enact some sort of city legislation or ordinance that won't allow local authorities to work with ICE? Thank you.
Thank you. And Mark, you will start the responses for the next question. Somebody's thinking about you people. School boards are increasingly under attack, whether it's on, well, you know all the attacks. How can the public better support the school board members and the school board as a whole?
Thank you.
Yeah, running for school board, and Mary and I, we talked about this earlier, that years ago when people ran for the school board, it just wasn't a thing. You ran for school board and that was it. And now we're in a position where certain entities are trying to get inside our public school systems to ban books, to do things that are, to me, against the Constitution. And I think it's going to take strong board members all across the country. In fact, I think if you look at the numbers, how many school systems are out there, how many board members are out there, it's a big number of people. I would encourage anybody who wants to run for the school board that's passionate about protecting our Constitution and our rights, they get involved and they run for the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Tascha.
I love that answer. That was fantastic. And the question is wonderful. Thank you for asking that. Really, keep asking that. That is in just checking on us and checking on our neighbors and maintaining civility in our everyday life is how we are going to be able to go day by day and continuing our roles. So, and also pass that capital projects levy so we can keep our school buildings safe.
Thank you. And Shauna.
So thank you to whoever asked that question, because this is a thankless job. And you really have to have the heart to want to improve our schools and do right by kids to do it, because we're not getting paid and we're not getting cars or money or right fame. We're not really reaping any benefits of this. And it was really rough, especially during COVID. People said some really mean personal things to all of the school board members, and it was tough to want to continue. So I think one of the biggest things is just, correcting misinformation. I think just, supporting our schools and the people who choose to do this for no other reason but to make our schools as good as they can be.
Thank you. Okay, Shauna, you're going to be first on the next question. We often jest about the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. We also need to think seriously about the 3 A's, academics, athletics, and arts. Each area has its devotees and all have their place in the development of a well-rounded individual. Do you feel that ISD 621 does a good job of balancing support for all 3 areas? If not, what changes would you like to see?
I think we have recently, within my time on the board for sure, have moved towards that balance. I think there was a time when we put a lot of emphasis on academics, and you need to take all the AP classes, and you need to spend all your time at home studying, and you need to just keep pushing yourself to do better. And I think we got to a point where we realized that was really doing some damage to kids, and it's not sustainable to take all the AP classes and to constantly be putting that pressure on yourself. So we made a conscious effort to say, hey, it's okay if you don't take the AP classes. It's okay if you want to be in the marching band. It's okay if you want to try out for the play. Like, you can do things other than focus all your time and effort into academics. And I think we've seen a switch from where we have been.
Thank you. Next one is going to be Mark.
Do you mind repeating that question?
Okay. We often jest about the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. We also need to think seriously about the 3 A's: academics, athletics, and arts. Each area has its devotees and all have their place in the development of a well-rounded individual. Do you feel that ISD 621 does a good job of balancing support for all 3 areas? If not, what changes would you like to see?
Based on what Shauna said, it sounds like we are moving away from the 2 R's/W to the 3 A's. I think it is. I think it's very important that not only we have smart, intellectual kids that are doing well on standardized testing, but they also have this thing that we call EQ, emotional intelligence. I think that we're finding out is as important, if not more important, that we as a society can have a conversation about different things and important things. So I'm not saying that we should take away from those important things, but having a well-rounded group of kids graduate from 621 is my focus point.
Thank you. And Tascha.
Balance is changes. When we're trying to balance, we move around a lot. And we're going to need to listen to our families, our students, and how that looks. So I think 621 does a good job of trying to maintain that balance. It's really important for kids who, if there are so many different types of intelligences, and athletics is a type of intelligence, and having that body recognition, we need to support that and recognize that because it's key. And we, as a community, we all make up those different intelligences, and we can come together as one. So I think we do a good job, but we'll have to keep maintaining the equilibrium.
Thank you. Okay, I'm doubling up. Everybody got that one, right? Yeah. Okay. We have time, I think, for one more question before we go to the closing statements. Reading is fundamental. What are you reading? And we will begin with Shauna.
Well, I spend a lot of time in my car, so I listen to a lot of books, and my favorite genre of book is psychological thrillers, which is kind of like a mystery, but there's always a twist at the end. So I just started a new audiobook. It's called Ward D. It's by Frida McFadden. I really enjoy Frida McFadden, and her books are phenomenal. So I would highly recommend reading a Frida McFadden book.
Okay, I'm going to do a follow-up. You said you're doing this on audiobooks. So how do you feel about your students using audiobooks?
I think it's okay because, I choose audiobooks because I spend a lot of time in my car. So it allows me to listen to a book. But I also know as a special education teacher, when you can listen to a book and if you're listening to it and looking at the print at the same time, it still helps you become a better reader, even if you're just listening to a book.
Okay. And next will be Mark Sacay.
Thank you. That's a great question. I'm in a sort of book club, church club group, have been for 20 plus years or so. The last book we read, which was my suggestion, was The Second Mountain by David Brooks. It really talks about your first mountain is, all the things that we're talking about is getting a job, starting a family, getting your first house, sending your kids to school. That's the first mountain. And when you made it, you realize I'm happy, but I'm not joyful. The second mountain is kind of where I'm at right now. It's giving back to the community, giving back to people, connecting with people, and finding real joy and not just happiness. Second Mountain by David Brooks. The other book I'm reading right now is a little bit drier, written by a friend of mine, Dr. Tom Savard. I just call him Tom. He wrote a book called Clarity Cascade, and it's really about the efficiencies of manufacturing businesses in the medical device company. So that's it. Thank you.
Wow.
Okay. Thank you.
Sounds
and
awful.
Tascha Just.
It's good.
I have about 10 books going right now, and they're all different genres. So I really like self-help. I really like religious texts. I enjoy honing my craft and looking at education and mental health. One of the books I'm reading is The Art of Happiness right now. And I wrote down The Bad Guys because my family, my middle schooler is into The Bad Guys. So that's one series that we're into as well. So in our home.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that concludes our question and answer portion of the evening. So now we've tried to include a wide variety of topics, but there are, we could go on till midnight with the list I've got
Let's keep
here.
going.
So if we haven't touched on something of particular interest to you in the viewing audience, please reach out to the candidates, check out their websites, or give them a call, or meet them at another event, but don't give up. We will now go to closing statements. Each candidate has up to 2 minutes for his or her closing statement. Closings will be done in reverse order of opening remarks, which means that Tascha goes first. So Tascha, just your closing remarks.
Since I went over on my opening, I'm going to start at the end on my closing. So we'll see how this goes. Why I'm running, I want to protect what the district has already made special and protect our legacy. I know how schools function, and I know what students need in order to learn, and I know what adults need in order to take care of themselves and take care of each other. I'm a longtime school psychologist, as I said, a longtime union supporter, and most importantly, a mom of 2 Mounds View School students. One has graduated, and one is in middle school. My community has both Knights and Mustangs because I'm in the Valentine Hills little area that we can choose. So I am a part of both high schools, and my leadership position within the American Indian Parent Action Committee has also allowed me to be part of all the schools and have connections with students in all the buildings. And so I just want to thank you for this opportunity. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and everybody who's spending their time and energy, volunteering their time and energy to think about the students and to put forth what we need to really just build our community. When we have a strong school system, we have a strong community. So thank you, miigwech, shukran, gracias, shishi.
Thank you. And the next one will be from Mark Sacay.
All right. I want to first thank the League of Women Voters, my fellow candidates, and those who are interested in this election process. My vision for the Mounds View School District is built on 4 pillars: responsible fiscal leadership, unwavering academic excellence, robust mental health support, and a commitment to genuine community partnership. As a school board member, I will be steadfast steward of our tax dollars, ensuring every resource is allocated with transparency and purpose. We must invest wisely in the classrooms, staff, and innovative programs that directly enrich our students' learning and development. I'm dedicated to upholding and improving the academic standards that define our schools. This includes expanding opportunities for concurrent enrollment, ensuring that every student has a clear path to post-secondary success, whether that be a job, a college, a trade job, or a meaningful career. Furthermore, we must continue to prioritize the mental health and well-being of our students. We have a responsibility to each and every child, providing the support they need to thrive in and outside of the classroom. Finally, we cannot achieve these goals without strengthening our communication and engagement with our communities. The true process begins when we're listening and working together. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and work to ensure that every decision we make reflects our shared values and collective responsibilities to prepare our students not just for graduation, but for life. Together, we can ensure Mounds View remains a place where all students feel seen, supported, and set up for success. My name is Mark Sacay, pronounced like the salmon, Sacay. I'm asking for your vote on Tuesday, November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final closing statement from Shauna Bock.
First, I want to thank the New Brighton League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. Thank you to those of you in the audience who spent your evening with us tonight. I'd also like to thank my fellow candidates, and I wish you the best of luck in your campaigns, and I would be honored to sit by either of you at the 621 board table. My goal for this evening was not only to share who I am and what I stand for, but also to help ensure our community has the information needed to be informed voters. I hope I've shown that I'm a strong candidate for this position. And as you cast your ballots, either on Election Day or before Election Day, I just ask that you support the candidates who you believe will be in the best interest of our students and our staff, keeping those at the center of your decision. Because ultimately, the decisions we make as a community must always focus on the students and keeping Mounds View among the very best districts in the state. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all. That wraps up our forum, and what an interesting evening it has been. There are many other topics for which we did not have time, so check out the campaign literature, websites, etc., or reach out to the candidates if you'd like more information, including Shea, who is not with us this evening. I would like to remind the audience that all opinions expressed tonight are those of the candidates, and the League of Women Voters does not endorse any candidate. I want to thank the candidates for the ISD 621 board for stepping up to run for office. It's not easy, and it's a great responsibility. We need participation in all aspects of democracy for it to work, from informed voter to thoughtful elected official. Many thanks to the candidates with us tonight for sharing their time, knowledge, and positions. Thanks to the audience for their attention and good questions. Thanks to the camera crew and NineNorth for broadcasting and recording the forum. And to my League of Women Voters colleagues for making this all come together. Check out the NineNorth website for the rebroadcast schedule. To all listening, now that you have more information, please ponder your options seriously and then vote on or before Tuesday, November 4th. Early voting is open, and encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to vote thoughtfully. If anyone needs to update their registration, request an absentee ballot, locate an in-person polling place, or track a ballot, go to mnvotes.gov. This is part of the Secretary of State's website and has all the answers in many languages. Thank you for listening. Good night and good luck.
Nice job. It's fun.